So they're saying that they feel that he was cutting back to actually do this really long walk home and had chosen this trail. But earlier they had said that they did have evidence that he was actually trying to find his way back to his in-laws' place. I'd like to know what that evidence was and why their opinion has now changed. I don't think that one thing necessarily gets rid of the other, and I think it's quite obvious that Dawn and her family don't either. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to True Crime Unsolved. I'm Myles Reef. I'm here as always with my buddy Sean Cahill. This is the place where we tackle the stories that the TV networks won't touch. Guys, today we have a quick update about the Chance Englebert disappearance. So, as many of you already know, a lot of people reached out to us both in the comments on the YouTube channel and sending us DMs on Instagram. The remains that were found on October 11th have been confirmed through DNA testing to be Chance.
Yeah, obviously this is huge news. We had an inkling of a feeling that it could be Chance because beforehand we had learned that some of his belongings were found with these remains. His wife Bailey identified those items. I've heard it reported that there were a couple different things. Ultimately, it doesn't matter because now we have DNA proof that this was indeed Chance. So listen, guys, we're not going to come in here with a video that's going to tell you anything that you can't find in the news. But because we are so closely tied on this channel to the story and Dawn and Ryan, her private investigator, we felt like we had a responsibility to at least come on and just announce it on our channel, just in case you haven't read this, in other news outlets. And then also, to let you know that we reached out to Dawn ourselves to say, obviously, give our condolences and to take her temperature on the whole thing. Um, Myles, she had already talked to the media, right, about this. This is very conflicting, I think, for the Engelbert family.
There's a couple of things at play here. There's what Dawn has posted on the Find Chance Engelbert Facebook group. There's what Dawn has said to the press, and there's the communication that we've had privately with her over the last couple of hours, just between us. They all kind of say the same thing, which is that the discovery of these remains, with the conclusion that the local authorities are coming to based on that, is not going to bring closure to the family, and that there are still many questions for her and her family. I think it's safe to say that. I don't think we're betraying anything. I think you can read that yourself with what Dawn said to the Cowboy State Daily. But, similar sentiment in speaking to her through email. And we're not going to sit here and like read her private communication, but it doesn't seem like Dawn and her family are satisfied with this, what seems like a rather quick and convenient conclusion by the authorities that Chance hiked there and he fell and it was an accidental death and case closed.
Yeah, I think what's not up for debate is that these are Chance's remains. I think no one's holding that in doubt. But what is sort of in contention here is did he go there himself and die of misadventure, as they put it, as in some sort of an accident, right? Did he go in a really bad thunderstorm with a broken phone and hike into the dark where there's no lights? To go where? Back to Torrington, which was you couldn't walk on the most perfect day in bright sunshine, and now he's doing it in a storm in this very strange area. So the authorities are sort of saying, yeah, we believe that that's exactly what happened. Chance went there, he made a poor decision to walk through this area at night in a storm, and because of those conditions, he wound up falling to his death. Now, what the family is saying, what I think a lot of people watching this video might feel when you know the details of the case is that just sounds really hard to swallow, right? Sure, that's where Chance was, and that's where he was found. But this young man who is so experienced with the outdoors, um, it, pretty much in a normal state of mind, maybe agitated because he'd been arguing with his in-laws, and he had drank earlier that day, but by no means was still drinking, right? It hadn't been in for hours. So just an odd decision to make. It's of course conceivable, but I think the family seems like they're saying maybe this investigation shouldn't be over yet, right? Okay, we can understand that something bad happened to Chance out there and he fell. But why was he out there? That is a huge unanswered question. And I think leaping to the conclusion that he just walked out there by himself because he was going to walk all the way back home. Not everyone's feeling that one. I think there's a leap of judgment there that strains a little bit of credulity. And that's subjective. Some people are probably going to come in here and comment like, duh, that's obviously what happened. I don't see what the problem is with it. But there's a large contingent of people who don't understand how that makes much sense.
Yeah, and there is one other interesting point that that we could talk about right now, which is that, and this is in the Cowboy State Daily article. Um, so mom still has questions. His disappearance has remained a mystery, but even after being identified, Dawn said that the family still has questions, given that, and this is the important part, they'd formally been told by police that the police had proof that Engelbert had been backtracking back to his in-laws' home when he vanished. So that's an interesting point because what they're saying is that they are now saying, the authorities, they being the authorities, and this is also a quote from Dawn that she gave to the Cowboy State Daily, not from our emails with her. They feel he chose that trail where the remains were found as a shortcut to Torrington. So they're saying that they feel that he was cutting back to actually do this really long walk home and had chosen this trail. But earlier they had said that they did have evidence that he was actually trying to find his way back to his in-laws' place. So I understand that, things can change based on evidence found, but if they did have evidence that he was backtracking back to his in-laws, I'd like to know what that evidence was and why their opinion has now changed just based on the fact that like, well, we found him here, so that means that that other thing didn't happen. Because I don't think that one thing necessarily gets rid of the other, and I think it's quite obvious that Dawn and her family don't either.
Yeah, from what she said publicly, and of course from our little private interaction with her, it's obvious that she has a lot of questions about this, and frankly, I do too. As someone who's now had multiple hours that are available to view in public of conversation with people connected to this case. Dawn, the private investigator, you and I have gone over and over it. We've read news articles, we've updated the audience on this many times. I just nothing is impossible here as far as the authorities' story goes, but just knowing what I know of Chance and what he was doing that day and what he was doing that night, this is a very surprising conclusion for me. And so I'm kind of like Team Dawn here, and that I'm cautiously accepting the parts that make sense, but I'm not so sure I'm ready to accept all of it yet. It feels like there could be maybe more of an investigation here. There's, like you just said, Myles, there's sort of contradictory evidence now. Was Chance going back to his in-laws' house, or was he going to march through this national park in a rainstorm to get somewhere that no one would, in their right mind, would ever walk? Right? Which one was it? If we have evidence that proves one or the other, great. But it seems like they're pointing in both directions at once, which tells me something's not adding up. Personally, that's how I feel about it.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. I would say, based on all the evidence that Ryan found, the interviews that he conducted with people, the strange things that were seen that night, I think there's still a lot of questions. And the idea that because chances remains were found in this location means that that's exactly he walked there on his own and that's what happened. I just don't know how you jump to that conclusion. And look, maybe there's a big investigation that's gone on between October 11th and November 25th that has proven that this is the case. And there's a press release apparently that's going to be released by the state attorney tomorrow, so we will obviously keep an eye on that. We'll post it on the tab, on our post tab here on the channel. And I'll put it up on our Instagram and Facebook accounts as well. So whoever doesn't see it can see it. Once that thing's released. I guess there might be some sort of press conference involving Bailey tomorrow too, once the remains are presented to her. I read something along those lines. So we'll see what happens. But it seems just from our, correspondence with Dawn that this isn't over for them. And we will be speaking with Ryan as well to see, where he stands and where he feels his investigation stands and who he's speaking to. And we'll keep you guys updated as we can. Dawn knows that the door is open for her when she wants to speak to you guys directly. I think with the holiday and everything that this family is dealing with right now, she's not getting on camera anytime soon. But I do feel confident that when she does want to speak, she will sit down with us.
Obviously, I think we're all open to whatever the conclusion is here. I think one of the things this case has been plagued by for the last couple of years is sort of a lack of transparency. from the investigative side to not only the public but the family. So if this is what happened, okay, that's okay. I think all of us are willing to accept that when we see why exactly that's the conclusion, right? Present the evidence for us to see what led these investigators to that being for sure the conclusion here. And I think we're all good. The only reason I feel like the family is hesitant to just fully embrace this theory, and why I sort of myself am, even though I'm not really involved in this story, I'm just an observer, is that I just feel like we haven't seen everything yet. We haven't seen why they have that conclusion. Okay, we understand Chance's remains were found there, but there's a lot of questions about how they got there before we just assume he put himself there. Maybe he did, but I'd like to know why they think that. And maybe we'll find out at this press conference tomorrow. I don't want this to be one of those videos where I say all this stuff and then tomorrow they come out and show it all and then I look stupid. Like, I'm really open to learning why. And I know Myles is too. And I'm sure the Engelbert family is as well. So hopefully we'll get some more answers. Last thing I'll say, and Myles, you can jump in here too, because I know I speak for both of us, is that the, you know, I want you guys to understand the reason that we keep returning to some of these cases that we've already covered isn't because we want to milk the situation or exploit it or anything like that. This is actually quite the opposite. The families that we work with, one of the things they always love about this show and that we promise them is that we will return to their loved ones' cases as many times as needed as new developments come up or new interviews become available. Just because we're returning to a case that we covered 5 times, it's actually what these people usually want, right? The reason they do shows like this is they want to keep the names and the memories of their missing or deceased loved ones alive. And so that's something that we're very clear about with them. They're very clear about it with us. And so just please don't think that because we're going back to Chance Engelbert again, it's like, oh, that poor family, leave them alone. No, we talk to them still. We're in communication with the Engelbert family, and they see this as a valuable tool, I think, as far as keeping Chance's story out there and alive. So that's all I wanted to say about it. I don't think we need to make too much of it to do. I probably already have, but
No,
yeah.
I think it's a good point, though. I mean, it's like if we were making video after video about someone who didn't want videos made about them, that would be a different story, right? Like maybe it's a certain person who's under suspicion in a certain case that we've covered over and over again that, some of you guys really, really think is guilty. We're not sitting here doing that. We're providing a platform for the family and letting them speak. So again, we're not saying anything that's going to put anything in jeopardy. We're being really careful about that, and we're always reaching out to folks before we post anything. So please know that, guys, because it's important to us that that we have integrity about what we're doing and that we're doing this for the right reasons. And we're just trying to bring you guys information while also keeping these stories alive, keeping these victims' names out there, and giving the families a platform and a voice. That is our purpose, 100%.
I love what you said. And look, no one's really brought it up. I feel like this is, it's not us being defensive against a particular claim. I think Myles and I are just very sensitive to these families and these situations, and we kind of wanted to just get ahead of that, right? Because we're yet again returning to this story, and I just want everybody to understand kind of why we're doing it and where we're coming from.
Right. So to sum it up, guys, the remains have been conclusively proven through DNA testing to be Chance. The authorities there, apparently, from what we've been able to gather, are saying that they now deem it an accidental death and that he was hiking and using this path and he fell. Dawn and her family are not necessarily satisfied with that conclusion. And tomorrow there's going to be a press release from the state attorney, which we will post up here, and we will also put it up on our social media once we see it. And apparently, Bailey might speak to the press tomorrow after she's presented with Chance's remains. So we'll try to monitor that as well. And yeah, anything else comes up, we'll be here. Meanwhile, Friday, we will still be posting our case breakdown for the Missy Beaver case. So please keep an eye out for that. And yeah, stay with us. Lots more to come.
Thanks, guys. We'll see you next time.